Xatu is one of my personal favorite Pokemon, and unfortunately, this Pokemon has not been very good in competitive singles for most of its life. Xatu had a below average stat distribution even back in Gen 2, when the power level was pretty low. Although Psychic Flying was a unique type combination at the time, the Pokemon had very little to offer. In Gen 3, Xatu at least gained some new abilities, Synchronize and Early Bird, but these really aren't anything special, and Xatu remains an average Pokemon without much to offer over other flying types. In Gen 4, Xatu suffered even further with the addition of Stealth Rock to their game, but in Gen 5 they finally threw Xatu a bone, a significant one too. They blessed Xatu with an all-new hidden ability, Magic Bounce. This is one of the strongest abilities in the entire franchise to this day. Xatu needed a lot to overcome its poor stats and difficulty competing with other flying types, and this amazing new ability was exactly what it needed. Although Xatu is not ranked OU in Gen 5, it does see some occasional use in competitive play, and is considered the best Magic Bounce Pokemon in the format. Let's take a look at how Xatu can enable certain strategies in Gen 5 OU and offer unique value to competitive teams. But first, an intriguing update. It appears that Iron Mugulis has somehow weaseled its way into the homes of a few unsuspecting gamers. His intentions are unknown, but he has reportedly been inhabiting people's shelves and also acting as some sort of holdable container for beverages. It seems to me that Iron Mugulis is providing some valuable utility to these homes. Check out jimothycool.com if you'd like to acquire an Iron Mugulis of your own, currently available in the US, Australia, and New Zealand. Magic Bounce is an outstanding ability that not only grants you an immunity to all status moves, it bounces them back to the enemy. Magic Bounce is also able to act as protection against hazards. If an enemy attempts to set hazards against a Magic Bounce Pokemon, they will be reflected back to their side of the field. This hazard protection is the main reason to use Xatu on competitive teams. There is another Magic Bounce Pokemon in Gen 5 competing with Xatu, Espeon. Espeon has more impressive offensive stats than Xatu, with 130 base special attack and an above average base speed of 110. But it's hard for Espeon to function very well as an offensive threat in a metagame dominated by Tyranitar. Espeon lacks any fighting coverage to hit Tyranitar, apart from the lackluster hidden power fighting. Faster paced teams prefer to use Starmie as their form of hazard control. A fast rapid spin can support hazard weak teammates, and Starmie is a more effective offensive threat in the metagame too, thanks to its higher speed, great offensive ability in Analytic, Stab Hydro Pump to threaten Tyranitar, and that valuable Bolt Beam coverage. Alakazam is also a more desirable choice than Espeon. Access to Magic Guard mitigates your team's need for hazard control by completely ignoring hazards. Alakazam is faster, stronger, and can threaten Tyranitar directly with Focus Blast. Xatu is the more popular Magic Bounce Pokemon because it can actually stick around longer. Xatu has access to Roost as a form of reliable healing, and a Psychic Flying typing is superior defensively to just a mono Psychic typing. Xatu is immune to ground, has some more resistances, and is also immune to spikes. Xatu happens to be really excellent against one of Gen 5 OU's most common Pokemon, Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn's main advantage is leveraging its bulk so it can find turns to establish hazards on the field. But if they see a Xatu in team preview, they are going to be scared to ever set hazards out of fear that they'll bounce back. When you have a Xatu on your team, their Ferrothorn goes from a frightening defensive wall and value engine to an exploitable weak point. The worst Ferrothorn can do to you is knock off your item, not the end of the world. Meanwhile, you ruin their entire life. They can't Thunder Wave you or set any hazards at all. Xatu even has access to Heat Wave to bully Ferrothorn even further with super effective fire coverage. You already wall Ferrothorn well enough, so this isn't totally necessary. And against rain teams it won't be very effective anyway. But if you want to punish Ferrothorn even harder, this option is there. Xatu will usually use Nightshade as its form of damage, since it deals a clean 100 against anything. Xatu is also very good at punishing Skarmory, another popular hazard setter. Brave Bird will do decent damage, but you can take it, and if you're wielding a Rocky Helmet, that recoil damage and chip damage will add up quickly for them. Some other common hazard setters that Xatu matches up well against are Gliscor and bulkier variants of Landorus Therian and Excadrill. Although Sun teams aren't great in the current Gen 5 OU metagame compared to the superior rain and sand weather effects, they are occasionally seen in tournaments as an anti-meta pick, and Xatu is seen pretty often on these teams for that ever-valuable hazard protection. Ninetales is the only Sun setter in OU, and it is vulnerable vulnerable to Stealth Rock. Any other fire types you might be using will also appreciate the support of Xatu. The player Dark Evion brought this team to Monai's Gen 5 Invitational, where a Xatu is supporting the Sunset at Ninetales and also Victini and Darmanitan, two sun-boosted fire-type threats. Even today, you commonly see Magic Bounce users like Hatterene on Sun teams for the same reason. Sometimes Xatu doesn't need to be used alongside Rock-weak Pokemon to be worthwhile. It can just be an additional form of hazard and status protection, and a way to prevent spike stacking. The player Solwind brought this Xatu Sand Stall team to the Gen 5 Invitational. Blissey and Jellicent can be vulnerable to spike stacking, so the support from Xatu is appreciated. Sometimes Xatu can also enable some pretty unusual stuff. This team from the player Lax is some sort of anti-rain hail team. Xatu supports both Abomasnow and Kyurem by dissuading the use of Stealth Rock. Tentacruel is there to act as another spinner and benefit from enemy rain. And don't ask me what the hell Escavalier is doing here, and how it managed to destroy an Excadrill with a well-timed counter, because I honestly couldn't tell you. This is probably the most creative Xatu team I've seen so far, and it managed to win pretty convincingly. Despite all these success stories and interesting applications of Xatu, the Pokemon does have its pitfalls. Xatu may match up well against the more passive hazard setters that can't threaten it very effectively, but against some other hazard setters it isn't so fortunate. Garchomp is a popular Stealth Rock setter that significantly threatens Xatu with its massive attack stat and Dragon Stab. Although it's rare, if Garchomp happens to be running Stone Edge, Xatu is toast. Landorus Therian can also give Xatu big problems if it's using rock coverage. Offensive Excadrill sets can beat down Xatu pretty easily with Iron Head. Although Excadrill will take some Rocky Helmet chip, this still isn't a great 1v1 situation. Iron Head has a high chance to eventually flinch and denies Xatu from healing up. Heatran is another rough one. A Stealth Rock setter with massive special attack and the powerful stab moves Magma Storm or Fire Blast. Even Lava Plume from more defensive Heatran sets deals decent damage and will eventually burn you if you stay in for too many turns. Terrakion and Aerodactyl are also nightmare matchups for Xatu. Stealth Rock setters that can straight up one-hit KO you and avoid Rocky Helmet damage completely. The reason you sometimes see Xatu paired with another Rapid Spinner as a backup hazard control plan is for this reason. Relying solely on Xatu to control hazards can be inconsistent. In some matchups, Xatu is amazing, but in others it's easy to exploit due to its poor stats. Overall, I really like Xatu, and I think it's a positive presence in Gen 5 OU. Magic Bounce is a dangerous ability, and it can become a huge problem if it's on a Pokemon that's too powerful. Mega Sableye is the most notorious example, one of the few defensive Pokemon that has ever been banned from an OU format. Mega Sableye not only has Magic Bounce, it has really good defensive stats, an amazing defensive typing with only one weakness, and a vast utility move pool. This is a bit too many advantages for one Pokemon. Xatu feels a lot more reasonable comparatively. Magic Bounce is an incredible tool that can enable unique structures by supporting hazard-weak teammates, but applying pressure to Xatu and eliminating it isn't hard either. The Pokemon's stats are low, and some simple strong stab moves can give it huge problems, and while its typing is okay defensively, it has plenty of exploitable weaknesses. Xatu is epic and funny. Thank you for watching. Thank you to the patrons for your continued support, and thank you as well to everyone who has donated to my Gen 3 OU tournament, ADV Revival.
Whoa! KO'd by one hit! It's scattered spike!
The money got different, cause of what I'm spending.